A lot of times you might be asked the question, what is network link? Network link is a communication channel that connects two or more devices for the purposes of data transmission. Typically, network link may be a dedicated physical link or a virtual circuit that uses one or more physical links or shares a physical link with other telecommunication devices. Typically, term network link is used in computer networking to refer to communication devices that connect nodes of the network. There are four main network link types typically recognized: point-to-point, multi-point, point-to-multi-point, and private or public. A lot of times you might be asked, what is OSI model? OSI stands for Open System Interconnection Framework. Keep in mind that this is only conceptual framework, which describes the functions of the networking and telecommunication systems. It contains 7 main layers: application, presentation, section, transport, network, data link, and physical. OSI model was built as a recommendation on how system should communicate over network to guide vendors and developers. OSI model is also used as a tool to help troubleshoot network problems. An OSI model is also used in communication to describe functions of networking and telecommunication systems. OSI model breaks down communication process into 7 layers, and each layer in the model has its own specific function. Application layer enables user interactions with internet-connected applications, for example browser or other internet-connected apps. Presentation layer is responsible for translating the data from the application layer. Session layer coordinates conversations between the applications. Transport layer transfers data between systems and hosts and controls the types of data transferred. Network layer is responsible for moving data through the network. And data link layer enables node-to-node data transfer as well as error control. And last but not least, physical layer uses electrical signals to send data from one device to another, which could be done over wired or wireless networks. Each layer in OSI model transmits the data to the layer below and also receives information from the layer above. OSI model was architected to provide comprehensive view of the network, and it includes operating systems, applications, drivers, and hardware to explain everything that's happening in the network. A lot of times you might be asked, what is backbone network? Backbone network, which is also called core network, typically provides a path for the exchange of information between different LANs or subnetworks. Backbone network can connect together networks in the same building, networks in different buildings, or over wide geographical areas. Typically, backbone networks have much larger throughput capacity than the networks that they connect. Some examples of backbone networks might be a large company that has many locations and may need backbone network to connect all locations together. Another example of backbone network might be internet backbone. Backbone network typically performs at least 4 core functions: aggregation, authentication, switching, and being a gateway as an entry point into the network. There are many different architectural designs of backbone networks, but the most important ones are distributed backbone, collapsed backbone, parallel backbone, as well as the serial backbone. A lot of times you might be asked, what is LAN? LAN stands for Local Area Network, and LAN typically connects computers or other networking devices that are located within a small physical location. Examples of LANs might be home LAN, school LAN, or small office LAN. Typically, devices on the LAN are connected using Ethernet, which is a wired connection, or using Wi-Fi, which is a wireless connection. Very frequently, you might be asked, what is network node? Node typically refers to the networking endpoint where connection takes place. Physical network node is typically an electronic device that is attached to the network and which is capable of creating, receiving, or transmitting information over a communication channel. Devices could be connected to the network over wired or wireless nodes. And as a very important point, 2 or more nodes are needed to form a network connection. A lot of times you might be asked, what is a router? Router is a networking device that forwards data packets between computer networks. Routers can connect 2 or more network segments, and by connecting to these network segments, they establish 2 or more data lines from different IP networks. Router is a very intelligent network device which stores information in its routing tables, such as path, hops, and bottlenecks. Using this information, router can quickly determine the best path for the data transfers. Router is one of the few devices that operates on the OSI network layer. A lot of times you might be asked, what is VPN? VPN, which stands for Virtual Private Network, is a technology which was originally developed to provide secure access to corporate applications and resources for remote and mobile users. Virtual Private Network is established by creating a point-to-point connection through the use of dedicated circuits or through the tunneling protocols over existing networks. In today's world, VPN found another use, as a lot of users would like to use VPN to establish online privacy and anonymity. In addition to providing secure access to office data and establishing users' privacy and anonymity, VPN is also very helpful when you need to protect your data over unsecured Wi-Fi networks. A lot of times, you might be asked a question during the interview process on how Windows Server is used by the organizations. Windows Server can play different roles based on organizational needs. It can be a web server using IIS, Internet Information Server technology from Microsoft. It can help companies deploy Windows on the workstations using Windows deployment services. It can play a role of Active Directory domain controller, be a DHCP server, DNS server, provide virtualization using Hyper-V technology. It can be a print and document service, as well as the file server. There are multiple ways to see all available roles Windows Server can play right inside Windows Server. Right now, I'm inside Server Manager, and I can see available roles by navigating to Manage, Add Roles and Features. I go through the wizard, and as one of the steps in the wizard, Windows Server allows me to see the full list of roles available. A lot of times, you might be asked the question, what are the available editions of Windows Server? There are 2 editions of latest version of Windows Server that are available, Standard Edition and Data Center Edition. There are also 2 server forms, Server Core and Server Desktop Experience. For example, this is Windows Server Standard Edition with Desktop Experience. To find out what is the edition that we're using, we click on the Start button, type System, select System Information, and we can see that this is Microsoft Server 2019 Standard Edition. In contrast, Windows Server Core will only allow you to access the server through command prompt, either using default commands for Windows Server, through command prompt, or using PowerShell. During Windows Server installation, user is presented with the screen similar to what you see on the left-hand side of the screen. You have multiple choices for each edition. For example, for Standard Edition, you can select Server Core, which is the first choice, or you can select Standard Desktop Experience. In very similar way, you can make selections for Data Center Edition. A lot of times, you might be asked the question during the interview, what is the latest version of Windows Server? You can always check the latest version of Windows Server by navigating into Settings. For example, if you click Start button, navigate to Settings, select System, select About, and scroll down to Windows Specifications, you can see the edition of your server and version that is currently installed on your server. The latest version of Windows Server at the moment of this video is Windows Server 2019. It has 2 editions, Standard Edition and Data Center Edition. Microsoft continues to improve the server versions though, and they continue add additional functionality. The latest release Microsoft is currently testing is 20H2, And if you would like to learn more, you can type in Google Windows 20H2 and a lot of information is available. A lot of times, you might be asked the question, how do you patch Windows Server with latest security patches and updates? Also, you might be asked why this is important. Over the years, Microsoft almost automated the patching process, and it happens semi-automatically. As an administrator, you can postpone and delay it a little bit, but you cannot stop it, unless you use tricks and hacks in the registry. To check current status of updates and patches on Windows Server, you click the Start button, type Check for Updates, and select Windows Update Settings or Check for Updates, depending what you're trying to accomplish. As you can see, I have updates available, and in order for me to install them, I can click Install Now button, which triggers update installation. To optimize Windows Update installation based on organizational needs, you can change active hours. You can view update history, and you can view advanced options. In advanced options, you can customize updates delivery based on your needs. You can change update options, update notifications, and pause updates if this is what you're trying to accomplish. There are three main reasons why installing latest updates on Windows Server is important. Number one is that updates patch security holes and make your installation of Windows more secure. Hackers take advantage of Windows updates, and if you don't patch, they can access and compromise your system remotely through the network. In addition, installing latest updates improves user experience and fixes software bugs to improve compatibility. This is typically not as important as patching security holes, but it does provide some productivity improvements and access to latest features to enhance your Windows Server experience. A lot of times during the interview process, you might be asked the question, how do you install Windows Server? Even though there are multiple ways you can utilize to install Windows Server, including attended and unattended installations, one of the most common and easiest way is to install using virtualization software. For example, you can pick among multiple different choices available for virtualization software like VMware Workstation Pro, VirtualBox from Oracle, or Microsoft's virtual machine. Download trial version from Microsoft and install Windows Server in the virtual environment. To download Windows Server trial in Google, all you need to do is type the keyword in Google and it will take you to the right place. Because we're trying to download and install on the desktop, this is considered on-premises option, and we need to click Download Free Trial option that's relevant to that option. Depending upon what you're trying to accomplish, you can download Windows Server Installer in 3 different formats. ISO files is mimicking DVD file, so it's an equivalent of you getting virtual DVD. Azure will give you the file for Azure environment, and VHD option will give you the file for Hyper-V. Keep in mind that there are also other options available for Windows Server. We've selected the basic options for Windows Server 2019, but there is also Windows Server 2019 Essentials, Hyper-V, as well as the Admin Center application that complements Windows Server installation. Because I will be installing Windows Server on VMware Workstation Pro, I will choose ISO option and download the ISO image. If you do not own the license to VMware Workstation Pro, you can in a very similar way, by typing keywords VMware Workstation Pro trial, find the link to the trial download. The latest version of VMware Workstation Pro at the time of this recording is version 16, but I will be using the version 15.5 because this is what I have license for. You can complete Windows Server installation in 4 steps. 4th step is optional, but definitely recommended. You start installation by downloading trials. If you do not have virtualization environment trial, you can try VMware Workstation Pro or use other software that's available to you. You can also download Microsoft Windows Server trial. For the purposes of this demo, I downloaded ISO file. In step 2, you need to configure virtual machine. To configure virtual machine, you need to go step by step through the virtual machine creation process wizard. To start the process, you click on the Create New Virtual Machine button. Most of the time, I choose Custom option because it allows me the most control. On this screen, you need to choose compatibility options of the virtual machine that you are creating. Because I'm using the most recent version of VMware Workstation 15.5, I'm okay choosing the latest compatibility. But if you are concerned and only have access to the previous versions of VMware, You choose the option here, which is the best for you. On this screen, I typically choose I will install the operating system later because it allows the best control. And I will be able to adjust and change settings if necessary before starting the installation. Here you choose the version of operating system that you're trying to install. In addition to Windows, VMware Workstation Pro can also install Linux as well as VMware ESX or other operating systems. If you choose the version that you're trying to install, VMware will try to pre-select and download template with remaining settings. Because there is no option of Windows Server 2019, the closest option will be Windows Server 2016, and this is what I will choose here for this installation. On this screen, you can give your virtual machine a name and choose where virtualization files will be located. During Windows Server installation, you need to make one of 4 choices. You have 2 server editions, Standard and Data Center, and you have 2 server forms, Desktop Experience and Server Core. I will be installing Standard Edition with Desktop Experience. And to be able to quickly identify my virtual machine, I'm giving it the name that most describes what's in this virtual machine. Windows Server Standard 2019 with Desktop Experience. On the firmware screen, I choose UEFI. UEFI is the more modern replacement of BIOS. When you choose UEFI, one of the biggest benefits is that it provides secure boot, as well as it allows you to boot from the large hard drives. Drives with sizes 2.2 terabytes or larger, and the theoretical limit of UEFI is 9.4 zettabytes. I will not choose UEFI Secure Boot, but you can choose your option based on your needs. In the processor configuration screen, I will choose 2 processors and 1 core per processor, with the 2 total cores available to my virtual machine. On the memory screen, I will choose 2 GB of RAM. Keep in mind that this option can be changed later. For example, if you feel that your virtual server needs more memory. I will choose Network Address Translation to allow my virtual machine to connect to the internet. I will go with the LSI Logic SAS, which is the recommended option by VMware, because it will provide fastest throughput for my virtual machine. And for the disk type, I will go with Non-Volatile Memory Express option, which is the fastest in today's world and recommended by VMware. Because this is going to be a new installation of Windows Server, I will choose an option Create New Virtual Disk, and I will choose the size of 256 GB, as well as I will choose the option of storing virtual disk in a single file, because this is the fastest option. I will also include the size of the drive into the file name, so I will be able to quickly identify the size in the file system. In the last step, I can quickly validate the settings to make sure I selected all the options correctly and customize the hardware if necessary. To install Windows Server on VMware Workstation Pro, we need to insert ISO file into the virtual DVD. To do that, we double-click on the CD DVD/SATA, and here there is a room to insert ISO image file, where you would need to point to the ISO file that you've downloaded. Once you select the file, VMware Workstation accepts the new path, and you need to click OK. Next step is to power on this virtual machine and follow the installation process. Windows Server installation is done in the form of Wizard, and most of the common choices are pre-selected for you by Microsoft. On this screen, I would recommend you click Next unless you're planning to make any changes. Here you need to click Install Now button. I'm not planning to enter product key, so I will select I do not have a product key option. On this screen, you need to select the configuration that you're trying to install. Windows Server comes in 2 editions, Standard Edition and Data Center Edition. Each of the editions comes in 2 forms. Edition with the desktop experience, where you have GUI interface to manage your Windows Server, or Server Core, where you manage your server from command line. For my installation, I am going to select Windows Server 2019 Standard Edition with desktop experience. On this screen, I am going to accept license terms and click Next. I am doing custom brand new installation, so I am going to choose Custom option and select the option Install Windows Only. This option shows us the virtual hard drive that we've created, and this will be the destination for Windows Server installation. I'm going to select this hard drive and click Next. This process triggered the installation, and Windows is going to complete installation step by step. Unlike desktop Windows installation, Windows Server installation keeps administrator account enabled. And in this step of the wizard, you need to configure password for your administrative account. Once you configure the password by entering it twice, you click the Finish button. To log in into your Windows Server installation, you need to press Ctrl-Alt-Delete button. But because this is a virtual environment, pressing Ctrl-Alt-Delete will do it on the host machine. So instead, you click on VM and you use Send Ctrl-Alt-Delete command to the virtual machine. Once password is entered, you push the Enter button and it gets you in. When you log in into the Windows Server environment on VMware Workstation Pro for the first time, you see that the screen is small. You also see that you do not have a network connection. The main reason for that is because Windows Installation Wizard doesn't recognize VMware. And you need to install latest VMware tools and drivers. VMware provides default way to do it by showing the installation toolbar at the bottom of VMware Workstation. If you click Install Tools, all it's going to do is going to insert predefined ISO file into the DVD drive of the virtual workstation. I'm going to click Install Tools button and navigate to the File Explorer inside Windows Server. As you can see, the virtual DVD was inserted into the virtual DVD drive. You can access it by clicking this PC and navigating to the DVD drive. Once there, you can trigger the installation process for VMware tools. If you just follow the wizard and use typical installation options, you will install all the latest drivers for VMware Workstation Pro. And this would allow you to run the application full screen and get the network connection. Typically, at the end of the process, it is a good idea to reboot the server to make sure all the driver installations took effect. A lot of times, you might be asked a question during the interview process: what is Active Directory? Active Directory is the directory service which contains the database which was designed and created by Microsoft. Initially, it was only used for centralized domain management, but over the years, it became an umbrella title for the broad range of directory-based services. In addition, for storing user accounts, computers, printers, and all other connected devices information in Active Directory, it also became a place for centralized security and network configuration management. Active Directory stores all information organized in organizational units. Each organizational unit contains user, groups, computers, and other devices information. Organizational units are stored hierarchically and allow easy management by network administrators. Very frequently, you might be asked the question during the interview process: how do you configure Active Directory domain controller on Windows Server? You can promote Windows Server to domain controller in 5 easy steps. As a first step, you need to select Active Directory domain services as well as DNS server. During the installation process, you need to select and configure New Forest, as well as you also will be prompted and you will be required to configure password for directory service restore mode. And once all the setup is complete, you would need to use installed Active Directory tools for Active Directory management. To promote Windows Server into domain controller, you need to navigate to the Server Manager. In the upper right corner of the Server Manager, you need to click Manage button and select Add Roles and Features. You need to click Next on the first step of the wizard, select Role-based or Feature-based installation in the next step, select the server, which in my case I only have one server in this configuration, and click Next, select Active Directory Domain Services, which will give you a lot of other options that needs to be installed automatically selected for you by Windows Installer. So I'm going to select Add Features here on the screen. You also need to select DNS Server option, which will come with additional set of sub-options. I'm going to click Add Features and move to the next step. This message indicates that I do not have static IP configured for this server, which in my case, I'm only doing this for training purposes, so which is going to be okay. It might be the same for you, or it might be different. I'm going to click Continue and click Next. I'm not going to select any additional new features as part of this promotion. I'm going to click Next. This is the confirmation of what we are about to do. We're about to promote Windows Server into Active Directory Server. I'm going to click Next. This is additional description of what Windows Domain Controller with DNS will be doing. I'm going to click Next. I'm going to select this option to restart the destination server automatically, if it is required. I'm going to click a confirmation Yes here. And as a last step here, I'm going to click Install. Once installation is complete, you need to click Close button and go through the reboot process. After the first reboot, server still wasn't promoted to Domain Controller. You need to complete some additional steps to finish the installation of Active Directory. You navigate to ADDS option in the Server Manager, and you see that configuration required for Active Directory domain services. When you click More, it shows you the remaining steps. I'm going to select Promote the server to Domain Controller. In this step, you need to select Add a new forest and put some thoughts and consideration of how are you going to name your root domain. Because I'm only doing it for demonstration purposes, I'm going to select a generic name, ad.local. But your selection on this step might be very different. You need to do more research because it is hard to change this particular configuration. I'm going to click Next. In this step, I am going with the default choices provided by Windows Server. The only thing I need to enter here is Directory Services Restore Mode password. I'm going to click Next. I am going to leave Create DNS Delegation option unchecked and click Next. I'm going to confirm name AD for NetBIOS domain name and click Next. I'm going to leave the default folders selected by Windows Server and click Next. Confirm all the settings that I have selected and click Next. This last step triggered the installation and actual reconfiguration of the server into Active Directory Domain Controller. Windows Server provided me with some warnings which I am going to ignore because this is a test environment, and I am going to click Install to trigger reconfiguration and promotion of the server into Windows Server Domain Controller. After reboot, when you log in into the Windows Server, you need to select the option of AD/administrator, which will indicate that we are signing on into Active Directory. Windows Server added tools to manage Active Directory. To access them, you need to click the Start button, navigate to Windows Administrative Tools, and select, based on what you're trying to accomplish, the right tool. I'm going to select Active Directory Users and Computers because it provides the full visibility to the domain that was just created. A lot of times during the interview process, you might be asked to describe DNS. DNS stands for Domain Name System, and this is the system to look up between domain names and IP addresses, which uses port 53 for TCP protocol and is also available on UDP. If you type google.com in your internet browser, computer doesn't know what is google.com, and it asks DNS server to do the lookup. DNS system makes it possible for us to type google.com and instead get connected to IP address 216.58.192.174. By the way, you can make a cool experiment and type this IP address right in your browser, and when you hit enter, you will get right into google.com. But I bet you might realize that it's much easier by just typing google.com. DNS architecture on the internet is very sophisticated, and it consists of 4 different layers: DNS recursor, root server, TLD namespaces, as well as authoritative name server. Microsoft Windows Server provides DNS app to help manage DNS in Windows Active Directory architecture. Inside DNS app, you can configure forward lookup zones, reverse lookup zones, trust points, conditional forwarders, and a lot of other things. The query to translate website name into IP address is only one type of queries that DNS provides. In addition to this query, DNS allows for recursive queries, iterative queries, and non-recursive queries. DNS is extremely fascinating topic. If you're interested in DNS, I recommend you type in Google these additional queries for DNS security, DNS zones, DNS root server, primary and secondary DNS, as well as reverse DNS. A lot of times, you might be asked the question, where is Active Directory databases located on Windows Server? To make Active Directory services possible, multiple files are involved, but all of these files are located in the system root NTDS folder, which is typically C Windows NTDS. To navigate to this folder, you need to log in with administrative account to Windows Server, go to Drive C, navigate to Windows, find NTDS folder, and open the database files. Keep in mind that sometimes your extensions to the files may not be visible. To enable extensions, you need to click View in the File Explorer, select Options, navigate to View, and choose the right set of options for you to see everything you would like to see. A lot of times, you might be asked the question, what is lingering object in Active Directory? Because Active Directory configuration could be complex and consist of multiple servers, the servers would require data replication. Some actions, like adding and deleting objects, might happen in one server and would need to be replicated to other servers in the configuration. There is also a possibility of some servers being offline without being able to replicate. To better understand lingering objects, we need to understand the concept of tombstone. Tombstone is the deletion request from one of the Active Directory servers. Because multiple different administrators can manage Active Directory domain controllers in multiple different places, they might delete objects independently from each other. In order for Active Directory to remain intact, all the objects in Active Directory would need to be synchronized. But when you delete something, it's technically not physically removed from the database. When Active Directory object, such as user for example, is deleted, it technically remains in the database for a given time, which is known as tombstone lifetime, which uses acronym TSL. If domain controller remains offline for longer than TSL period, deleted objects can still be present because server will never receive replication request. When this occurs, it is known as lingering object. A lot of times you might be asked the question, how do you backup Active Directory? You can configure Active Directory backup in 4 simple steps. The first step is you need to add the server feature, which is called Windows Server Backup. Ideally, you should have a dedicated volume for backups if you're doing backups on the same server, or you can choose the network location. In step 3, you need to configure backup. You need to select the schedule, configuration, destination, as well as complete some additional changes in Windows Scheduler. And last step is execute and validate the backup. Make sure that the backup is actually created, as well as you can do restore from the created backup. To add Windows Server Backup feature, you need to navigate to Server Manager, select Manage, add roles and features, and go through the wizard process. I am going to select role-based or feature-based installation in the next step and click Next. This configuration is only applicable to this server, so I'm going to leave default selection. I'm not adding any additional roles here, and I'm going to select Next. And in the Features section, I am going to select Windows Server Backup and click Next. In the last step, I am going to click Install. Once feature installation is complete, you can click Close button on the wizard. We have completed the first step of Active Directory backup configuration. In the next step, we're going to set up a dedicated volume for backups. To select the dedicated volume for backups, you need to navigate to Computer Management and select Disk Management. In my configuration, I have a dedicated drive, which is the same size as the main drive C, which I am planning to utilize for backups. Your configuration might be different, but the best practice is to have a designated drive as a backup to allow possibility of restore if something happens to your main drive. In step 3, we would need to configure the backup, and this process consists of 4 different steps. We will configure backup schedule, configuration, destination, as well as look at some task scheduler tasks on Windows Server. Windows Server Backup is available as a desktop app on Windows Server. To configure new backup, we would need to click on the backup schedule and go through the wizard process. I am going to click Next on the Getting Started step. Active Directory Database is the native part of the Windows Server. I am going to select Full Server. In the next step, you would need to specify backup time. You have an option of selecting backup once a day or multiple times a day. I am going to go with the default option and select it as once a day. On this screen, you would need to select a destination for your backups. If you're planning to dedicate the entire drive to just backups, you can go with option 1. I am going to select the option 2 because I am planning to use my drive for some other backups, maybe for external applications that are outside of Windows Backup. And the last option here, based on your configuration, you can also choose to backup to a network shared drive. In Destination Volume, I am going to select Add and add my drive E. I'm going to select OK on this confirmation screen and click Next. In the last step, I'm going to review and confirm my backup configuration. Once confirmed, you can navigate back to the Windows Server Backup app and confirm that there is a scheduled backup. Ultimately, what Windows Backup app did is created a task in the Windows Task Scheduler. I am going to launch the Task Scheduler and look at some settings that I might need to change. Created task is located under Task Scheduler Library, Microsoft, Windows, Backup. You can access task's properties by selecting the task and choosing Properties. Same properties are also available at the bottom portion of the screen. One important setting to verify is to make sure that the backup is running under System Account, which is true in my case. As a next step, I am going to navigate to the Settings section of Properties. Here on the Settings screen, you would like to make sure that this task will stop if it runs for longer than 3 days. And in the last but not least step, I would like to make sure that the backup actually runs without waiting until the scheduled runtime. I also would like to make sure that I can run the task on demand. To do that, I navigate to Properties tab, select Settings, and check Allow Task to Run on Demand. Once I click OK on this screen, I would like to validate to make sure that the backup can execute without me waiting until the scheduled time. To do that, I'm going to select the task and click Run. Not much is happening on the screen, but you can navigate to File Explorer, go to the E drive, which is my destination for the backup, and see that we do have Windows Image Backup folder created, and backup just started for the server. A lot of times you might be asked the question, how do you restore Active Directory from the backup? There are two main ways how restoration of Active Directory could be done. One way is to install brand new domain controller and replicate it from the existing controllers. You need very fast network connections to accomplish this in an efficient manner. Another way is to use one of the backups that has been created on the Windows server and restore from the backup. You can do it by using the recovery option. Keep in mind that there are two main ways of restoring Active Directory. The first one is authoritative restore. In this type of restore, you restore the master data and you tell other domain controllers that this becomes master data, and whatever replication I will be pushing, this restored domain controller will become a master and will synchronize all the changes to other domain controllers. Another type of restore is non-authoritative restore. In this type of restore, you can restore from the older copy of Active Directory and then request latest updates from other connected domain controllers. Restore from replication cannot be authoritative restore because you're rebuilding new domain controller, installing new domain controller services, and requesting replication from other domain controllers. In this scenario, ntds.d database, GPO files, and sysvolume folders will be updated with the latest data from other domain controllers. If you really need to do authoritative restore, or just trying to restore from the backup located on the local server, you need to find Windows Server Backup tool using the Start menu, launch it, and assuming that you did backups in the past, because they're not configured to be done automatically, you can trigger recovery process by clicking the Recover button. In Recover process, you navigate through the wizard, and in my case, I will be selecting recovery for this particular server. I will have a choice to select the date and time of the backup I'm trying to restore from. You can choose between Files and Folders Restore, Volume Restore, Application Restore, or System State Restore. In my case, I am going to choose Files and Folder Restore. If you want to avoid restoring everything, or would like to not restore some specific areas, you would need to be very selective with your restore and navigate and browse the tree structure to determine what exactly you're trying to restore. For example, you may choose to restore the entire drive C. To do that, you just need to click on the drive C and click Next. On this screen, you can select some specific recovery options. You can restore to original destination. You can recover to original location or recover to another location if you're just trying to review the backup. You can adjust how you would like to handle the items that are duplicates, as well as you can change some security settings. In the last confirmation screen, you just need to review all the folders that will be recovered and click the Recover button. Once all the steps have been completed, you just close the wizard. After closing the wizard, it might be a good idea to reboot the machine. One of the first questions you might be asked during the interview is tell me about yourself. This is an open-ended question, which means that interviewer would like to let you know more about you. There is no specific format to answer this question, and this is why it's so important to tell the story. And one of the very important parts of this story, that there are some guidelines that would help you succeed answering this question. There are certain things you should bring up when answering it, and certain things you should avoid. One of the easiest way to answer this question is focus on 3 important things: your current role, your past experience, and your future aspirations. For example, when you're speaking about your current role, you can mention your current responsibilities, your recent accomplishments, and how your current position helped you grow in advance. When talking about past experiences, you can focus on skills that would be helpful for the company and the position you're applying for, and would be relevant to the job that you will be doing. And your future aspirations section can focus on the things that you're planning to do in the next 3, 5, and 10 years. When answering this question, it's typically a good idea to focus on 5 important things. Focus on the job that you're applying for. Focus on your professional career. Focus on your education, training, and skills that would be helpful for the new position. Focus on your volunteer experiences. And focus on how can you be a quick starter. Here's how a sample answer may look like. I have been in IT support industry for over 5 years, enjoying and growing in my career as Support Center Analyst and Help Desk Specialist. I currently work as a Service Center Analyst at Ontario, where I handle most complex Support Center cases. Before that, I worked at Brontaro, where I handled 3 major national healthcare systems, helping companies support them. Since your organization also specializes in healthcare billing systems, I would be a quick starter in these positions, since I already have all required experience. In addition, I already have experience and recently completed specialized training on supporting Windows 10-based systems, as well as Linux servers and Oracle databases, which you use in your organization based on the job description that you shared with me. And this is why I would be able to contribute immediately after start. On top of that, I used online version of Bilko system at my previous client, and looks like you might be using a desktop version here. I will be able to apply all of my knowledge and wouldn't need any training to get started. And while I really enjoyed the work that I did, I would love a chance to dig in much deeper with one of specific healthcare companies, which is why I'm so excited about this opportunity with Metropolitana Health Center. I also wanted to mention that I really enjoy volunteering and supporting people at my church to help them solve their computer challenges. A lot of times, you might be asked the question, what are the most important qualities of Support Center Analyst? When answering this question, some of the most important qualities you might consider highlighting would be technical knowledge, since Support Center Analyst needs to have a very good understanding of cloud-based systems, desktop hardware and software, as well as software applications running within the company. Support Center Analyst may also need to have a good understanding of operating systems and network connectivity to troubleshoot all the issues within the organization. Focusing on problem solving and issue resolution helps you become the great Support Center Analyst, because solving problems maximizes efficient use of computer resources within the company. Ability to listen to the clients also helps you be a great Support Center Analyst, because it helps you understand what's happening and helps you resolve the issues faster, as well as keep the clients more satisfied. Your ability to follow up with the clients and explain them what's happening and provide them with the current status of the issue is also very important to be successful in this role. Patience and understanding is also a virtue for Support Center Analyst. Most of the times, clients contact you because something is not working. They might be very angry and frustrated. They might also expect the issue to be resolved as quickly as possible, if not immediately. Having skills to sympathize with the customers under the circumstances is extremely important for Support Center Analyst role. Most of the times, Support Center Analysts work in a team. Your ability to align with Support Center Analyst team goals will help you to be an extraordinarily good Support Center Analyst, as well as to align better with the company's goals and objectives. And last but not least is your ability to be agile. In addition to technology constantly changing, business conditions are also changed very frequently. And your ability to respond and adjust based on those changes would be extremely instrumental and helpful in the role of Support Center Analyst. A lot of times, during the interview process, you might be asked the questions, how do you deal with unknown issues? This is typically considered a tricky question, and there is no right or wrong answer to this question. But let's look at the most important considerations and the best way to answer it. There are 7 important considerations here. First of all, let's decide what is unknown issue. There could be 2 types of unknown issues. One type is something that never happened before, something that happens for the first time, and something that requires resolution. Another type of unknown issue is something that happened before, but never was resolved, meaning that there is no solution and there is no resolution script for that. This is why these types of issues require special treatment and special considerations. And this is why these types of issues typically would benefit from troubleshooting methodology. What is troubleshooting methodology? If you type in Google how to troubleshoot issues process flow, you will get a lot of different results if you switch to Images tab. You can see network troubleshooting flowchart, steps to troubleshoot network, steps to troubleshoot support issues, steps to troubleshoot pretty much anything. And you can start building your methodology based on this flowchart. But before doing that, you might also consider checking if your organization already has a troubleshooting methodology. Another important consideration when dealing with unknown issue is sticking to the facts. What's happening with computer systems is typically very logical. And by sticking to the facts, you will find explanations to everything that's happening, including unknown issues. Sticking to the facts is very important quality of analyst, but it is extremely important when you deal with something unknown. Collaborating with other people and getting their feedback will help you get to the resolution faster and will help you consider other angles for that issue that you may not consider just looking at the issue on your own. And last but not least consideration here is documenting the resolution to make sure that this unknown issue becomes known issue going forward. Sometimes you might be asked the question why quality customer service is important for organization. There are at least 5 reasons why it is important. Let's look at them one by one. First of all, quality customer service improves productivity in the organization. Naturally, human beings like to help each other. And if people feel that they're helping other people by providing quality customer service, they will work even more efficient and even more effectively. By creating this cycle in the organization, you create positive environment, which helps improve productivity more and more day by day. Another important reason is that it helps retain customers. Typically, keeping existing customers is less expensive than getting new ones. And if you provide quality customer service to your existing customer base, they will not just stay loyal to your organization, but they will also help recruit new people and become ambassadors of your products and services. Quality customer service also provides business value to the organization. When customers are engaged and staying productive doing their work using your products or services, that increases their level of happiness and productivity, and they're more likely to build strong relationships with your employees, as well as buy more products and services from your organization. Satisfied and loyal customers also provide positive endorsements and good online reviews that help businesses strengthen the brand. Because research shows that people often make purchasing decisions based on recommendations from reviews, family members, or friends instead of advertising messages. It is very important to keep the quality customer service, to make sure that process is going and you're getting new endorsements and new online reviews. And last but not least reason why quality customer service is important is that it helps reduce turnover. If at the end of the day, customer service professionals, that they've done something important and they've accomplished major goals, It will help people feel more satisfied about their employment. People that feel that they're helping others are less likely to switch their positions and look for the new job. A lot of times, you might be asked the question during the interview, how do you deal with frustrated and angry customers? Even though every situation might be different, you might offer a couple considerations in your response. Number one on the list is typically practice active listening, which is also sometimes called reflective listening. And what it typically means is that you listen to what customer has to say, take notes, and the only thing that you add in the conversation is the phrase, tell me more, or tell me more so I can better understand. And what else? Those are the typical phrases that help you with active listening practice. And only when customer has nothing else to add to the conversation, then you start analyzing the notes and suggesting some explanation to what might be happening. Another important consideration is sticking to the facts. And what it means typically when you troubleshoot computer systems is that using the tools and documenting facts provided by the tools instead of relying on anecdotal evidence. Microsoft Windows provides you with a lot of great tools to look at the computer stability, look at the log files, and look at reliability history. As a Support Center Analyst, it's typically a good idea to supplement what customer is saying with the actual factual-based evidence of what's actually happening. This can be done by looking at the task manager, reliability history, log files, and a lot of other tools available in Windows. Another strategy to deal with frustrated customers might be to divide and conquer the problem. For example, if customer is complaining how frustrating it is to log in into computer system, maybe it is a good idea to chunk up the process and understand what exactly is frustrating. Is it the user interface? Is it the wait time? Or is it something else that might make them frustrated? And once this is completely understood, maybe it's worthwhile attacking that particular part of the problem. Sympathizing with customers and trying to step into their shoes is also extremely important. Typically, people contact Support Center when their work is broken, when they can't do what they're supposed to do, and they're typically under pressure as well themselves. Understanding their circumstances typically goes the long way and helps a lot to establish rapport and make sure that customer feels that they're making progress and solution is on the way. Applying how can I help you attitude is also extremely important. When you start by saying, I am here to help you, and continue repeating this phrase throughout the conversation, it makes a big difference. Especially when you follow up with the actual steps when you're trying to really help people. Using correct and all available tools and resources also helps to get the job done. For example, Microsoft Windows 10 provides an exceptional pack of troubleshooting tools and resources like Task Manager, Memory Diagnostics Tool, Network Diagnostics Tool, Reliability Monitor, Startup and Recovery Options Tool, Safe Mode, System Configuration Utility, and a lot of others. And last but not least way of effectively dealing with frustrated customers is following up. When you provide regular updates, deliver what you promised, and just regularly follow up with the customer, this improves their mood, make sure that the problems gets closer to resolution, and make them feel more confident in your actions. A lot of times, you might be asked the question during the interview, how do you stay current with technology? Even though the answer might depend upon the position you're applying for, I can offer you some considerations here. One of the most important things is embracing new technology. And what it typically means, instead of becoming legacy expert and only knowing and relying on legacy systems and legacy technologies that you know, actively embracing the new technology as the only way to move forward. Realizing that the most important thing that you can do for your career is learn new technology, and this is the only way to succeed. And once you have this mindset, it will make all the items listed here possible. Another item here is on the job training. A lot of times, company provides you with the tools and technologies that you would be using. For example, it might be Windows 10 Desktop with Microsoft Office installed. Learning the cool features of the technology you already have will help you improve your productivity on the job tremendously. There is tons of information available already on the internet, and more coming up live every day. Searching and finding things based on the type of problem you're trying to solve is extremely helpful. When you search on a specific topic in Google, you most likely will find relevant information and will have a lot of options in the sections of all blog posts and videos. And typically, the more specific you are in your search, the more specific search results are going to be. So for example, I just typed in tool to organize, but you can tool to organize notes or tools to organize your day, and more tools and more specific responses will come up in Google. Listening to podcasts is another effective way to get up to speed on the technology. I listen to a lot of podcasts from the Twit network, but there are a lot of other relevant podcasts based on your specialty, based on your career and the job you're applying for. Most effective type of training that you can take nowadays is video training. There's a lot of free content you can find directly on YouTube, or you can go and find more relevant coverage on the same topic on the sites like Udemy, which provides a lot of cost-effective training. Attending events and conferences on the specific topic is also extremely helpful and help you stay current with the technology. Even though due to COVID-19, you may need to use technology to do that, but hopefully this wouldn't stop you from accomplishing your goals. One of the questions you might frequently get as part of the interview is, how do you stay organized? There is no right or wrong way to answer this question, but I can offer you 5 guidelines to help you present yourself as a professional. Number 1, and I think the most important thing, is planning. Planning your day, planning your week, quarter, and the year. For example, you can use exceptional tools from Microsoft, like To Do, to plan your day, to plan your long-term goals, to look at your New Year resolutions, to see if you're staying on track. In addition, you can use tools like Microsoft OneNote to analyze the information and determine if you're staying on track. Prioritizing your work is also extremely important, and typically you can accomplish prioritization by taking notes and using technology. What also is extremely helpful is for you to stay organized, is to ask for feedback from other people. Asking for a quick feedback from your coworkers or from your manager will typically ensure that your strategy is working and you're staying on track. Please consider subscribing to this channel. Skills that you learn here will be helpful for you now and also in the future. You also get opportunity to help other people by answering their questions and helping them solve their challenges. If you like the content, please give this video a big thumbs up. This tells us that you need more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.